Okay, acid-base is something you do have to know about. If you do not know acid-base, you are in trouble because everybody else knows about acid-base. Okay? So one thing you have to do in acid-base is if they give you an arterial blood gas value report, you have to interpret it as metabolic acidosis, metabolic alkalosis, respiratory acidosis, respiratory alkalosis. So if they give you lab values, you have to convert it to words. Now, if you know how to do that, you're 100% accurate. Go for it. Don't listen to me. I don't want to fix what isn't broken. But if you're confused about that, you're nervous about it, you're anxious about it, I've got something here that might help you. Okay? All right. Interpreting blood gases, the first thing I suggest you memorize is the rule of the bees. Do you see it there? The rule of the bees. And what I want you to do is fill in here. It says, if the pH. That fills your first blank in. And as I say, there's only 3,000 to go. Okay, so if the pH and the bicarb, if the pH and the bicarb are both in the same direction, then it's metabolic. So the B's are bicarb both bolic. Do you see those? Bicarb both bolic? The reason why this works is respiratory does not have a letter B in it. Bicarb has the B in it. So what I'm saying is this. They will give you an arterial blood gas with 8 values in it. How many do you look at? They'll give you 8 values. How many do you look at? 2. Which 2? pH and the bicarb. That's what the rule says. Just look at the pH, look at the bicarb. Then look to see what direction they're going. If they're both in the same direction, be it up or down, it doesn't really matter. As long as they're both in the same direction, who cares what direction? Then you must use what adjective?
Metabolic.
Metabolic, because the rule says if the pH and the bicarb are both in the same direction, it's metabolic. Well, what if they're in different directions?
Respiratory.
Then you only have one other choice, and that's respiratory. Now, what do you get the acidosis and alkalosis from? The pH. Exactly. So let's look at how this rule would work. Well, first we have to know the normals. What's the normal pH? 7.35, 7.45. That is a piece of universal nursing knowledge. Everyone knows that. If you do not know that, you're the only nurse in the universe that doesn't know it. No, I'm serious. Okay, the normal bicarb is 22 to 26. Not every nurse knows that, so learn that. 22, 26. I call them the bicarb years. When you're 22 to 26-year-olds and you have to make all those decisions. What job do I take? Who's my buddy? Am I gonna get married? Am I not gonna get married? Am I gonna move in, not move in? You know, all those decisions you gotta make when you're 22 to 26. That gives you heartburn. So you need the bicarb. I call it the bicarb years because you're always in a knot over decisions. It's nice to be 56. No choices. No other women want you. No jobs want you. So it's nice. You only got one option. Makes it nice. Question.
Our teacher told us to remember that 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6.
That's true, but what does that mean? Oh,
It's
okay.
just a
2
way
plus
to-
2 plus 2. Oh, 22 to 26. 2, 2, 2, 6. Oh, that's cool. I like
That's
that.
an easy way.
That's good.
A lot of 2, so
Lots of 2s.
bicarb.
So 2, 2, 2, 2, 6. All right. Now, let's look at those, and let's look at our examples. In the first example, the pH is in what direction?
Down.
Down, so draw a little arrow down in the box next to it. Then the rule says to look at what? The bicarb, and the bicarb in this case is in what direction?
Down.
Down, so draw a little arrow down. Are those arrows going in the same direction?
Yes.
So what adjective must you use?
Metabolic.
Metabolic, and because the pH is down, it is.
Acidosis.
So that is an example of metabolic
acid.
acidosis. Okay, look at letter B. Bicarb is the pH is in what direction? Up. Bicarb, up. Are they both in the same direction?
Yeah.
Yes. So what adjective must you use? Metabolic. So this is metabolic alkalosis. Is everybody with me? Okay, the next one pH is down, bicarb is up. Are they both in the same direction? No. So what adjective can you not use? Metabolic. So you have to use respiratory. So this would be respiratory acidosis. Now the only time this doesn't work is when there's a mixed acid-base disorder and boards doesn't go there, because that's way too hard. All right? So if the pH, does everybody see how the rule works? What if I gave you a pH of 7.50 and a bicarb of 25? 750 and 25. What would it be?
Respiratory alkalosis.
Respiratory alkalosis. Why?
Because the
pH is in what direction?
is low.
Well, 750 would be
yes,
up.
it's up.
And the bicarb is
Down.
normal. 25. It's normal.
How about sit there?
25. So is that the same direction? Up and normal?
No.
So it's got to be respiratory. So even if the bicarb is normal, it still works. You see what I'm saying? Alrighty, that's the ABG interpretation. Let's talk about signs and symptoms, letter B. They will tell you a patient has respiratory acidosis, metabolic alkalosis, something like that, and they'll say, what would you see? Select all that apply. And you get a whole laundry list of stuff, and you have to select, check, check, check what's true. Well, two things here. One thing here, I hate lists. One thing you're going to see in my review is I do not have you memorizing lists of things. I hate lists, I despise lists, I refuse to remember lists. The reason why I hated lists in school was for two reasons. First reason I hated lists is, for example, if I learned 15 signs and symptoms of hyperkalemia, and then 15 signs and symptoms of hypokalemia, when I took the test, guess what would happen?
Forget them all.
I'd memorized, I would remember the lists, word for word. I could reproduce the list, but I would forget which one was which. Do you see what I'm saying? And when that happens, you're dead. All that work went for nothing. The second reason why I hated lists was, even if I could remember which was which and all 15 signs, my teachers had the tendency to pick signs numbers 16, 17, 18, and 19, and not the 15 that I memorized. And one thing that you guys learned real early in nursing is every book says something different, right? Take two nursing books, same thing, look at the lists. The lists aren't the same, right? Have you ever found two lists that were the same for anything in nursing? Never. So you can memorize a whole bunch of lists, but for that to be productive on boards, it better be what? The list that boards is using, right? And what chances is that? Very slim. So the point is this, boards does not test your knowledge of lists. It does not. What boards test is your knowledge of principles, not lists. But how will they test your knowledge of principles? By having you generate lists. Do you understand what I'm saying? Boards will not test your knowledge of what? Lists. They test your knowledge of,
Principles.
but they will test your knowledge of principles by having you generate lists. And so when people take boards, they say, oh, you got to memorize a whole bunch of lists. No, you don't. They don't know what's going on. For example, in general, what do pain meds do? In general, what do opioid pain medications do in principle to a person? What do? They sedate you, don't they? They're CNS depressants. Okay, now, they will ask a question like, your patient is on Dilaudid, an opioid analgesic. What of the following things would you expect to see if they got too much or that they were getting a little too much? Select all that apply. Alrighty? And you're thinking, oh my goodness, I don't remember the list of Dilaudid signs. It's not a list of Dilaudid signs. It's to see if you know that opioid analgesics are CNS depressants, sedatives. So when you go to the list, what do you select? Agitation or lethargy? Lethargy. Flaccidity or spasticity? Reflexes of +1 or +4? +1. Hyperreflexia, hyporeflexia? Hyporeflexia. You know, restlessness or obtunded? Well, you go, I know what restless is. That's up, so obtunded must be down. That's a good test taker right there, okay? And you say obtunded. Okay, a good test taker never says, what? They say, and then they figure it out the other way. The thing about you guys that aren't good test takers, you haven't figured out that those good test takers, they don't know anything. They don't know anything more than you know. In fact, they probably know less than you know. They just don't quit. They just figure, oh, I'll get it. If they won't let me in the front door, I'll go in the back door. And if the back door's closed, I'll go through the cellar window. And they'll figure a way to get at it. They just don't quit. Poor test takers go, oh, I don't know what that. No, don't do that. I had a student that was a really bad test taker. He came to a maternity question, and it said, what's the best way to treat morning sickness in a first trimester woman? And he said, oh, this is the only OB question I know the answer to. It's crackers. And he was so excited, and he got the one OB thing he did not. So it's crackers, crackers. You look, A didn't say crackers, B didn't say crackers, C didn't say crackers, and D didn't say crackers. And what did he say as a bad test taker? What did he say? Oh my goodness. I thought I what? Knew this. I guess I don't know this. So he picked something like antacids every half hour. Okay? And then he wonders why he doesn't do very well. Well, you know what number C said? You know what answer number C said? Dry carbohydrates. Well, what is a dry carbohydrate?
Cracker.
A cracker. But what did he do? Oh! You know, he was expecting the front door, cracker. No, you go to the back door. Dry carbohydrate. Do you see what I'm saying? Don't give up. Don't think that you don't know this. You know it. Okay, so if they say restless versus obtunded, you know what restless is. Obtunded must be the other. Okay, but do you see what I'm saying about the sedation? And you generate the list by applying the what? Principle, not having memorized some list. Does that make sense? Do you see why why can't boards test lists? Why can a national nursing test not test lists? Because what? All the lists are different in different textbooks used in different geographical areas of the nation. To write a statistically significant, reliable, valid question, you have to write the question so that no matter who takes it, no matter what book they read, no matter what school they went to, it's a fair question. And if you're just taking out a Mosby's book on whatever, the signs and symptoms of whatever, and you write a question on that, it will perform horribly statistically nationally. The only way you can do these select all that applies and have them perform well is to test what? Principles, and see if a student can generate a list from a principle. Now, does that change the way you might look at a select all that apply question? You understand what they're about? There is no mystery. You weren't supposed to have memorized some mystery list that you didn't know. You're supposed to say, this is a chance for me to show I know a principle. You got that? That's how you do those. Okay. So, I want to give you a principle for answering acid-base signs and symptoms. And it's what's in the box there. It says, as the. Do you see where I'm at? As the pH goes, so goes my patient. As the pH goes, so goes my patient. What? What does that mean? As the pH goes. pH can go up, or the pH can go down. And when the pH goes up, your patient goes up. And when the pH goes down, your patient goes down. Does that mean they sink and levitate? No. What does it mean? What's it mean? Talk to me.
Not very exciting.
Yeah. So when the pH goes up, every system in your body gets more irritable. But when your pH goes down, systems in your body shut down. So when your pH goes down, you shut down. When your pH goes up, everything gets hyper-excitable. It's pure chemistry. It's talking about catalyzing chemical reactions, basically. So, Do you see where it says up? Oh, except for potassium. I'm sorry, I didn't write that in there. Except for potassium. So what does that mean?
pH goes up, potassium goes down.
And when pH goes down, potassium goes up. Because if it followed the rule, we wouldn't even mention it, right? So as the pH goes, so goes my patient except for potassium. So if your patient goes up, do you see the little box there that says up? What is that? What's another name for that? Up pH? Alkalosis. What will you see with alkalosis? Give me some stuff. Give me some signs you'd see with alkalosis.
Vomiting.
Irritability, absolutely.
Hyperreflex.
Hyperreflexia. What would be some numbers that would be hyperreflexic? What numbers? 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are hyper, 2 is normal, 1 and 0 are hypo. Remember that with reflexes? 3 and 4 are high, hyper, 2 is normal, reflex, and 1 to 0 is hyporeflex. What else would you see with alkalosis? You got 2 of them.
Irritable.
We got irritable, we got hyperreflexia. What else do you think? Think of a body system and then go a high. Tachypnea. What else? Tachycardia. Would you have paralytic ileus or borborygmi? Good. You good test takers said borborygmi, even though you may not know what it is, because paralytic ileus sounds like everything's what? Shutting down. That would be the down. The up would be borborygmi. Now, Boards loves the word borborygmi. B-O-R-B-O-R-Y-G-M-I. Borborygmi. That is the word they will use for increased vowel sounds. So if you hear somebody's stomach growling this evening, what will you say? How borborygmus of you. Borborygmi. Increased vowel sounds.
Can you spell that one more time?
B-O-R, and do it again, B-O-R-Y-G-M-I. Borborygmi.
Thanks.
So what would be down? Acidosis. And what would you see there? What's that?
Hyperreflex.
Hyporeflexia. What else?
Bradycardia.
Bradycardia. Lethargy. By the way, obtunded means just one step more lethargic than lethargy. O-B-T-U-N-D-E-D, obtunded. Vocabulary is critically important to pass this test. That's why the blue book and the yellow book are real heavy on vocab. Can't answer a question if you don't know what the words mean. Sounds pretty obvious. So what would you have, paralytic ileus or borborygmi? Paralytic ileus. Would they have a seizure or a coma?
Coma.
Coma. Because seizure's up, coma is down. You got to go the same as the pH. So let me ask you this. What acid-base imbalances are most likely to seize, and which ones are most likely to have a respiratory arrest? Alkalosis will what? Seize, and acidoses will respiratorily arrest. Does that make sense? Because you're doing the, as the pH goes, so goes your patient. So what acid-base disorders need an ambu bag at the bedside? What acid-base imbalances need an ambu bag at the bedside? Acidoses, because they're going to what? Respiratorily arrest. Which acid-base disorders need suction machines at the bedside? Alkaloses, because they could seize and aspirate. See, don't limit yourself. When they start asking these things, say, wait a minute, I know about this. I can get there. See, I shouldn't have to teach you who needs an ambu bag at the bedside. You should be able to get that from as the pH goes, so goes my patient. Do you see what I'm saying? These rules, use them. They're tools. Okay? Before we turn the page, I want to ask you, I want to introduce you to, whoa, that's bright. Don't look at the light. Is that coming in clear? Oh, duh. I want to introduce you to my favorite Scotsman. You know how Scottish surnames have Mac, Dougal, McDonough, MacGyver, MAC, you know. My favorite Scotsman, Mac Kuzmal. How many have heard of Kuzmals? Okay, from now on, I want you to, every time you see Kuzmal, I want you to think what? Mac Kuzmal. In fact, if you're talking to a doctor and he goes, he's Mac Kuzmal, I'll be happy. It'll make you look stupid, but I'll be happy. The reason is Kuzmal's is a compensatory respiratory pattern for one and only one acid-base disorder. You only see Kuzmal's with one of the four metabolic disorders, one of the four acid-base disorders. Which one? Well, MAC tells you that. M for what? And AC for acidosis. So MAC Kuzmal tells you that you see Kuzmals with metabolic acidosis. Okay, we have some knowledge, but we have to be able to what? Apply it. Remember, you can't apply what you do not know, but what you know, you have to be able to apply. This says, your patient has respiratory acidosis. Select all that apply. +1 reflexes. Diarrhea. Adynamic ileus. Spasm. Urinary retention. Paroxysmal. Atrial. Tachycardia. Second degree. Mobitz. Type 2. Heart block. And hypokalemia. I want you guys to get in groups 2 and 3, right where you're sitting, you don't have to move. I want you to talk to somebody, your buddy, and I want you to answer this question. And I want you to use the rule that I taught you. The rule is what? As the pH goes, so goes my patient, except for potassium. Now I really want you to draw some arrows here. I want you to draw arrows. Okay, and I want you to get the answer. So you can do it yourself, then turn to your buddy, discuss it, and then we'll talk about it. And don't say any answers out loud. Okay, how many did you select?
How many did you get? 3. I got 3.
I know, I don't know. You get 3.
How many did you select?
3.
3. You should have selected 4.
Fourth one.
So let's play our game. What should you automatically notice about this question? It said what?
4.
Acidosis.
Acidosis, the pH is in what direction?
Down.
And everything's going to go the same direction, which is what direction?
Down.
Except for potassium, which is going to go? So a high K. So now there's your answer. Now, up or down?
Down.
Select or no select? Yes. Up or down? Select or no select?
No.
No. Adynamic, without movement. Up or down?
Down.
Down. Select or no select?
Select.
Select. Spasm, up or down? Select or no select? Urinary retention.
Down.
Down. Select. Paroxysmal atrial tachycardia. Select or no? No. Mobitz type 2 heart block. Yes or no?
Yes.
Why? Block means the impulse is being what? Slowed, blocked. It's down. It's being hindered. So that's a select. Hypokalemia? No, I want a high K, not a low K. So the answer is the +1 reflects the adynamic ileus, the urinary retention, and the second degree Mobitz type 2 heart block. How many got that right? Excellent, excellent. Did you memorize a list? No? How long would the list be before you got second degree Mobitz type 2 heart block? Right? Okay. So that's what, and they're testing what principle? What principle are they testing? That in an acidotic environment, chemical reactions cease. So everything shuts down, and that's why you do it, see? You weren't supposed to have memorized these. Do you see what my point is? So this should kind of free you from the fear of these select all that applies. Oh, by the way, what's the number one mistake that people make with select all that apply? Most common mistake made with select all that apply questions.
Not even see it.
Selecting one more than you shoulda selected. Number one problem. Now, those of you who are real concrete people, I did not say answer what you think and take away one. Okay, I didn't say that. I said that the tendency for people is to answer what? One more than they should. So here's the deal. With the select all that apply, if you know it's two of them, what do? Select those two and what? Stop. Because if you go, well, you know, it could be, okay, now that's a killer on select all that apply. You know, could be, don't go there with select all that apply. That is not cool. Because you're heading down a road that's going to get too wrong. If you do not know that it applies, do not answer select all the. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know that this is true, then don't pick it. Is that making sense? All right. The other thing about select all that apply, it's never only one and it's never all of them. You see what I'm saying? Never answer just one on a select all that apply, and don't answer all of them on a select all that apply, because it's never one and it's never all of them. Okay, let's go to the next page. Causes of acid-base imbalance. Causes. What they'll do is they'll give you a scenario, and they'll say, this is what's happening to your patient. And then they'll say, what acid-base disorder would result from this? Do you see they're flipping it around. Instead of saying, what sign and symptom will the acid-base balance cause, they're asking, what will cause the acid-base imbalance? And one thing that people do wrong when they answer these kinds of questions is they get signs and symptoms and causation messed up. Do you realize that in the human body, oftentimes what causes something is the opposite of what the signs and symptoms of that thing are? Does everybody understand what I'm saying? So a lot of times what will happen is diarrhea will cause a metabolic acidosis. But once you get acidotic, it will shut your bowels down and you will get a paralytic ileus. Do you see? One, diarrhea caused it, paralytic ileus results from it. It's the opposite. And when you're sitting there going, man alive, I learned it was this, and now you're telling me the opposite, probably what are you messing up? Causation versus sign and symptoms. So make sure that many times if you go back and you do questions now and you get confused, think, wait a minute, are you talking about sign and symptom, or are they talking about causation? Then you can go, oh, I see where the problem is now. Does everybody understand that? Okay, so just keep that straight. Okay, having said that, we're talking about causation now. Whenever you get a scenario, the first big question you ask yourself is it lung? That goes in the first blank. Is it lung? L-U-N-G. is the scenario a lung